everyone, welcome back to Freedom Talks with Kate. I'm Kate, and I'm a licensed social worker and confidence coach, guiding you through life transitions without losing who you are. Today, I really wanted to spend some time talking about the 5 stages of an overthinker. First phase is that first initial interaction that you have with someone or a situation that you're in. You have the situation happen, but then what do we do with it? We start attaching a narrative or a story to it, right? We start thinking about this interaction that we had with someone, start to replay some of it. But that first initial phase is just that interaction. And during this interaction, you probably felt some anxiety, maybe some social anxiety, or you didn't really know what to say, or maybe you just said something and you didn't really think about your response, you just kind of said it. We have this initial interaction, right? Or something happens at work or something happened at home where we made a mistake or we weren't really clear on whether that's what we should be doing or not. Phase 2. That is the replay of this interaction or this situation in your head. You start analyzing emotion. You start to question yourself. You question and make assumptions about what the other person was thinking or feeling. Let's say you have this interaction with a coworker and you guys are talking and you're having this conversation, and then you kind of said something that you felt stupid about or you weren't really sure about. And so you go back to your office and you start replaying this situation in your head. Like, oh, I should have said this, or I could have said this differently, or I should have just not said that at all. And, oh, they definitely looked at me weird, or they gave me some kind of, weird look or body language, or I wonder if they're thinking about that too. Like, I wonder what they think about me, right? So these are all the things that start replaying through our head. We really start analyzing every little thing about that scenario as if we could go back and control or change what happened. This is really when that thought spiral begins to happen. And I do this motion because we start at the top, right? It's a bigger opening and all these thoughts and things start swirling. But as you start going down the swirl, the opening becomes smaller, right? It feels more intense. It feels tighter. It feels heavy. Just hold on. We're going to get into it next. But it starts just feeling really restricting, right? Those thoughts, those narratives, the replay in your head starts to just feel very confining. Phase 3 is you start feeling guilty and ashamed about that interaction or the situation that happened. You start really feeling these sensations inside your body that's saying, oof, I don't like that. I don't like who I am. I don't like how I handled that. And those feelings are so intense. They might make you start feeling depressed, maybe just agitated, angry, very isolated, anxious. It starts creating this, and I say reaction in your body, because sometimes we can't always identify the emotion we're feeling, but we know we're having a physical response to that narrative that we had in phase 2. That narrative that we had in our head now is translated and our body is starting to feel it. Phase 4. This is really when you're triggered by that feeling that you're having. So now what we're in is a feedback loop. So you had this interaction at the top. Then you have this replay of the interaction, the narrative in your head about what your assumption is of that situation. Then you start to feel something. And now what we're going to do is attach another narrative to it. So based on how we're feeling, we attach another story to it. And that story is, I'm unworthy. I'm not good enough. I failed again. I can't make friends. I am not prepared enough. I don't know how to interact with people. You're so stupid sometimes. All those feelings of not being good enough really start to come up. So it goes from mind, body, mind, body, mind, body, and it keeps moving through this as long as we keep ignoring the feeling in our body. Last phase is it really starts to have this impact on our life. It starts to impact our sleep, it impacts our diet, it impacts our agitation, our isolation, impacts our productivity throughout the day. It just has this heaviness that weighs on us that starts to ooze out into all these other areas of our life. So what can you do? How can you break free of this cycle that you feel trapped in? First thing is to acknowledge how you're feeling. Right? It's not about trying to convince yourself to not have those thoughts because they're going to happen. It's about when that narrative drops into your body and you start feeling that guilt, you start feeling that shame about who you are, learning to just acknowledge and sit with that discomfort is extremely powerful. It takes the power away from the emotion. So check out one of my other videos for the feeling emotion exercise. It's maybe a 5-minute video. It's a really quick exercise. It's something that I do with a lot of my clients for grounding and learning to embrace our emotion, but also just sit with our emotion. And we are not good at doing that, right? We want to get out of what we're feeling. That's why we attach a narrative to it, because we as humans want to make sense of it, right? Our brains, that's the function of the brain, is to make sense of it. It is to problem solve. And it wants to figure out, what is this thing that I'm feeling and how can I fix it? But what if the fixing it isn't up here, but in here? And I know, it sounds cliche about, oh, just feel your feelings. But it's true. It takes the power away from it. And it doesn't need to be anything crazy. It can just be a simple exercise that allows you to feel that instead of running from it. Because that's all we do is run from our feelings. And that just only perpetuates these stages and that thought spiral that I was talking about earlier. So these are the 5 stages of an overthinker. And I hope you had some laughs along the way or some head noddings in agreement that you understand this. You understand this so well. Maybe right now there's a situation in your life or something that you're coming out of that you can look back on and say, yeah, I know those stages all too well. Where people get stuck is not knowing what to do with it. And so again, reference my other videos, try this exercise, try just letting yourself feel your feet on the ground, feel those feelings, and try not to do anything with it. Don't do anything with this thought, with this feeling. Just sit with it and see how it goes. Thank you guys so much. If you're liking my channel, please subscribe. I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. And also, make sure you check out the podcast, Healthy Mind, Happy Life. There's also tons of good content on there and lots of interviews this year of 2023 of some really good stuff all about anxiety and overthinking and learning about your nervous system, learning more about who you are as a person and how you operate. So make sure you check that out. Subscribe so you can get all the latest videos, and I will see you guys all back soon.